As Newfoundland begins a whole new era as a province of Canada, the ancient capital city of St. John's assumes a new significance in the life of this great island. For here is the seat of government, government by the people, which has returned to Newfoundland after more than 13 years of commission administration. To historic colonial building come representatives of the 1,300 communities which make up this Atlantic province. With all the pomp and ceremony befitting a land with more than 4.5 centuries of proud history behind it, the Lieutenant Governor, representing the King, comes to open another session of the People's House. The ceremonial entry of Mr. Speaker is watched by a crowded House of Assembly. He is preceded by the massive gold mace, traditional symbol of his authority. To this chamber for the opening of the legislature come people from every walk of life and of every station. They come to greet the elected members, who through debate and discussion will carry on the people's business. Now the Lieutenant Governor enters the chamber. It is his duty to read the speech from the throne, which outlines the government's program, which has been approved by members on the government side, who consider it to be in the best interests of all the people. These opposition and independent members will criticize much of this policy. But first comes a motion which is certain to gain full approval. A motion expressing loyalty to the King will be accepted unanimously, for Newfoundland's traditional devotion to the Crown remains unshaken. Moved and seconded by 2 of the youngest members, the motion is approved in short order, and the House gets down to serious business. Progressive Conservative opposition leader J.G. Higgins starts the debate. His party holds 5 seats. Premier J.R. Smallwood heads the Liberal Party, which holds 21 seats, and hence a majority. As head of the government, Premier Smallwood takes over at the beginning of a whole new era, which presents many new problems, in addition to those which challenged Newfoundland's great men of the past. These talented men of history, whose portraits hang in the House of Assembly, are amongst those to whom Newfoundland owes much of its development. Working against tremendous odds, these men did a great deal with very little. But much remains to be done by Newfoundland's leaders of today. In this cabinet chamber, Premier Smallwood and his ministers map out their broad program.
And perhaps it would be worthwhile if we did a little stock-taking to see how Newfoundland is shaping up and whether the work we've done is beginning to produce some results for the people. Let's review the situation. Let's see just what has happened to put Newfoundland ahead in the last couple of years.
The work of these men helps to bring closer to realization the dream of every Newfoundlander, that their province may soon have a new prosperity and the people a greater share of the good things in life. To achieve this dream, they must fight the curse of isolation, a major problem today, when the new and better concept of living demands that the people receive a high level of social services, regardless of where and how they live. This isolation problem is very apparent to the directors of the new health program, which is designed to provide better facilities and services. Under this program, the General Hospital has been expanded and modernized and is today one of the best institutions of its kind in all Canada. Equipped to take care of almost 500 patients, the General is filled to capacity at all times. From here, from there, from everywhere in Newfoundland, people come to this center of healing, with its dozens of different departments and services. The General is the largest of the many institutions now being operated under the health program, and here the magic of modern medicine is available to all. Administrator of the Department of Health is its Minister, J.R. Chalker, and the Veterans Ward comes in for special attention during one of his visits. Veterans and other patients can take advantage of the many facilities which the hospital offers. In the orthopedic wing, for instance, occupational therapy aids many patients. Physical therapy is used extensively also to bring new hope to crippled children. Skillful hands give kindly aid, but even here, the children cannot avoid their lessons as the classroom comes to the hospital. And while the sick are being treated, the instruments of modern science are being used by skilled researchers in a constant effort to find new methods of preventing disease and saving lives. In yet another phase of the department's operations, the central pharmacy, many workers are employed, packing and shipping drugs and medical supplies to hospitals and nursing stations, doctors and nurses in all parts of Newfoundland. The new nursing station at Lameline gets its supplies from this central warehouse. Opened only a short time ago, this well-equipped South Coast station with a nurse in charge looks after the needs of those who live in this remote area. In addition to work at the station, the nurse makes frequent calls at the homes of villagers. This station and others are a source of comfort and aid to those who must live far from the larger centers of population. The Lameline station is one of the smallest construction projects to be completed under the new health program. One of the largest to receive government aid is the handsome new Western Memorial Hospital at Corner Brook, erected as a memorial to the men from the area who gave their lives in World War II. This magnificent new institution has the modern facilities and expert personnel to fill the requirements of this rapidly expanding industrial area. The hospital's wards, nurseries, and operating rooms are fitted with the most modern equipment to enable its doctors and surgeons to perform even the most difficult operations. But the Western Memorial Hospital is only half the health story in the Corner Brook area. The government has completed a massive new West Coast sanatorium very near the new hospital. This 270-bed institution will be a tremendous weapon in the fight against Newfoundland's greatest man-killer, tuberculosis. Such institutions are invaluable, but what to do in the more isolated regions is still of major importance. The government is continuing to build cottage hospitals, the almost perfect answer to Newfoundland's peculiar health service requirements. Latest of several communities to get one of these hospitals is the thriving northeast coast town of Springdale. In the past 2 years also, 2 new wings have been added to the Hospital for Mental and Nervous Diseases. These additions are indicative of an entirely new approach to the whole problem of the mentally ill. The masons, carpenters, bricklayers, and plumbers go about their job of erecting a strong and sturdy building. And the medical staff seek to employ the latest methods in order to build strong minds and bodies and restore the afflicted to full health and vigor. Occupational therapy is used extensively, and patients are kept active doing useful work with their hands. Recognizing the value of recreation, the staff provide many opportunities for laughter, gaiety, and play. In bright and airy assembly halls, dancing and games stimulate the patient's minds and help to put them on the road to full recovery. To carry out the new program, many nurses are needed, and for them the government has provided a modern home. The new building has pleasant, comfortable sleeping accommodation, and here too the nurses can relax amid pleasant surroundings in their off-duty hours. Mental illness is basically a health matter, but tests prove that welfare problems such as bad environment can often cause a sick mind. To consider this and other matters, the Minister of Welfare, Dr. H.L. Pottle, has called together the heads of many welfare organizations and service clubs. Much of the work of his department requires the assistance of such organizations. And these community leaders have agreed to help make effective the government's many new welfare schemes, such as the improved old age pension plan, which was introduced by the government immediately after Confederation. Within a matter of weeks, thousands of old folks had their applications approved by a government-appointed board, and ever since they have received pensions of up to $40 every month. In 2 years, millions have been paid out in this fashion, and it is generally agreed that the heartwarming thought of thousands of aged Newfoundland men and women being able to live out their last days in dignity and frugal comfort provides adequate endorsation of the government's action. For those who live in the government-operated old folks' home, the new measure brings an added sense of security and independence. For the very young, there is protection and security also. Infants and mothers' allowances and the provision of this infant's home give the right start in life to hundreds of little ones. These mothers' and infants' allowances are another government innovation which has won general approval and which makes the work of the department's trained personnel a real pleasure to perform. In many a Newfoundland community, the welfare worker is a welcome figure. His job is to speed up the payment of pensions and to help those in need. This new service is greatly appreciated by folks such as this old pensioner who can now relax after long years of arduous toil. The welfare worker helps also with community projects, such as the various town councils, made up of community leaders who are accomplishing a great deal through their own efforts and with the aid of government cash advances. Many Newfoundland communities, such as Grand Bank on the south coast, are undertaking civic improvements with the government's help. A new water system is this council's greatest accomplishment to date, and the sight of workmen laying the water mains is a sure sign that the citizens of Grand Bank possess a modern outlook. Modern also, but in a different sense, is the very profitable fur farming industry being developed at Springdale. Mink ranching on quite an extensive scale is being conducted at this northern town, and the government's new Department of Cooperatives is giving aid to the ranchers in many ways. The government is laying great stress on the need for cooperative organization, and it was this fact that the Premier had in mind when he declared in a radio broadcast,
Loggers and the mill and factory workers, the longshoremen and tradesmen, the doctors and lawyers, the teachers and shop clerks. The fishermen, who are the largest body of all, are disorganized, scattered and powerless. If you want to be powerful, if you want to have a strong voice in the councils of the land, you must become organized. Send me your telegram telling what you think of the idea. Let me hear from you.
As a result of the broadcast, hundreds of fishermen, representing every section of the province, flocked to St. John's for the historic first meeting of the Newfoundland Federation of Fishermen. The fishery is still far and away the most important of all Newfoundland industry, and these delegates were representative of the largest single group of workers in the entire province. They were reminded of this fact in the speech of welcome given them by the Lieutenant Governor, and they were to hear the fact reiterated many times during the next 8 days of intensive meetings at the Convention Hall. Max Lane, Convention Chairman and first organizing secretary of the Federation, set the keynote for the conference as he introduced the various speakers. The man who got things underway was Premier Smallwood. "You have no organization," he told the fishermen, "but you are here to remedy that situation." Opposition leader Higgins wished the convention well. "This organization can be of tremendous value," he told the delegates. Fisheries Minister Keogh, whose task it will be to deal with the union, struck the same optimistic note as he pledged government support for the organization. And while the fishermen were holding their initial meetings, the first meeting of a government-sponsored Fishery Development Committee was being convened. Headed by Sir Albert Walsh and made up of representatives of the federal and provincial governments, the island's fish trade, and the fishermen themselves, this important group will consider the many problems which face the industry and will make recommendations for an overall development program. Their work will be watched with interest by those who go down to the sea in ships.
The blockhouse flag is up to date to welcome home the strangers and stewards.
Newfoundland's harvest of the sea is rich with many types of fish beside the familiar cod. And it is these lesser-known varieties which fetch the highest prices.
Build her to the hatches. For at a dance no girls can prance or dress in style.
In many processing plants around the coast, hundreds of tons of haddock, rosefish, and flounder are packed fresh daily and shipped to United States markets. The government is counting heavily on these modern fish plants to stabilize the fishing industry. One crying need of the Newfoundland fishery is for more and better boats. Since the days of John Cabot and his ship, the Matthew, boats have played a vital role in the island's development. And now, another Matthew sails the seas. This time, it's the Matthew II, built by skilled Newfoundland workmen at Clarenville and designed by the Provincial Department of Fisheries as an experimental craft, which will try out many different fishing methods in Newfoundland waters. It was a moment of historic significance when, in the midst of a late winter blizzard, the people of Clarenville gathered at the shipyard to watch the brief ceremony, which ended with the vessel gliding down the slipways. Later, at St. John's, Clive Planta, Deputy Minister of Fisheries, inspects the boat while she is being fitted with her special experimental gear. It will be months before the vessel can prove herself, but in a trial run down the harbor, she shows good form and speed. And while research afloat is going ahead with all possible speed, the Memorial University will soon be expanded to include a new fishery research center. One of the government's first acts was to raise the status of this former college to permit the conferring of degrees. And next will come the establishment of the Special Fisheries School with well-equipped laboratories and scientific machinery. In an effort to remedy the serious teacher shortage, salaries have been raised, and the facilities of the university have been made more readily available to those wishing to improve their teaching qualifications. The government's development program requires the services of many expert craftsmen and technicians, and the student who qualifies in the drafting room at the university may one day find himself working amid the same type of surroundings at the Department of Public Works. Here he will plan with Department Head E.S. Spencer the course to be followed in carrying on the government's vitally important long-term road building program. During the past 2 years, road construction has been carried on at an unprecedented pace. Many formerly isolated communities have been linked with one another, some on the route of the proposed Trans-Newfoundland Highway. And when unsettled world conditions permit, this long-sought-after island-spanning link will become a reality. In a land of many rivers, bridges are vital links on every road system, and today, skilled engineers plot the government's bridge-building program and draw blueprints for future projects. In construction and maintenance centers, craftsmen shape and mold wood and steel into the forms needed for bridge construction, and the many costly road-building machines are prepared for another season's operation. At the first signs of spring, the bulldozers and shovels, graders and cement mixers are put to work. These machines will open up much new country, provide additional badly needed transportation facilities for commerce and industry, and open up much new land for cultivation and agriculture. In its development program, the government has not overlooked the need for sound agricultural planning. Because Newfoundland does not possess an abundance of good land, every acre that is available must be utilized, and extensive land clearing is carried on constantly under a government assistance scheme. For years it has been said that Newfoundland conditions are ideal for the raising of certain types of sheep, and today the government is maintaining experimental flocks in an effort to prove the truth of this claim. Sheep raising can provide much employment, and where there is employment of any kind, there is need for sound labor legislation. Many new laws, which benefit both employer and employee, have been formulated under the direction of Labor Minister C.H. Ballum and are administered by government-appointed groups, such as the Workmen's Compensation Board. The new Compensation Act brings added security and helps to eliminate strikes and dissatisfaction. Another important group is the Labor Relations Board, which acts as mediator between worker and management when the need arises. As on the Compensation Board, both business and labor have an equal voice under the direction of the department's minister. Both have a say also in seeking a solution to Newfoundland's acute housing problem. Representative groups aid in such worthwhile undertakings as the government's slum clearance program in St. John's. At long last, definite action has been taken to wipe out the depressed areas in the heart of the city, and many former slum dwellers are now living in modern, well-constructed apartments, which the government makes available to them at a very nominal rental. The government's program, directed by Cabinet Minister O.L. Vardy, is concerned with other aspects of the housing problem also. Industrial expansion makes it necessary to provide comfortable, low-cost housing for many who are moving from small and remote communities to the larger centers. Although a problem today, this coming together of the population is nevertheless a good thing, for it reduces the problem of isolation. To answer the many challenges which this isolation problem presents is a very costly business. It takes many accountants and highly complicated machines to reckon up the millions it costs each year for hospitals, education, housing, and the dozens upon dozens of other services. Where must the money come from to keep the machines turning out the thousands of old-age pensions, widows and mothers and other allowances? Where can the government get the millions needed to build roads and bridges, to help town councils and other organizations? The answer lies in only one direction. There must be economic development to turn Newfoundland's valuable natural resources into the new money needed to maintain a high level of social services. Dr. Alfred A. Valdmanis, directs the government's all-important economic development program. And in the very first year, a worldwide search for new industries succeeded in interesting industrialists and financiers from many countries in the tremendous development possibilities to be found in the province. While agreements which will mean much new development are being signed frequently, 3 projects of major importance are already underway. For centuries, millions of feet of prime birch have rotted in the Newfoundland forests. Now steps have been taken to remedy this situation. The government has undertaken the erection of a giant mill near St. John's, equipped to process the Newfoundland birch into plywood, hardwood flooring, and dozens of other products for which there is a ready market in Canada and the United States. From the very outset, the erection of the mill was rapid. Providing employment for hundreds of workers, the 2 huge buildings took shape so fast that motorists driving along the nearby highway could scarcely believe their eyes. And as construction was rushed along, loggers and contractors in many sections of the province were busy cutting the first of many loads of birch and shipping them by rail, boat, and motor transport to the mill site, where the giant logs formed the beginning of the great stockpiles of raw wood, which the mill's many modern machines will turn into finished products of incomparable quality. The mill will continue to be a source of much employment, for in addition to the many hundreds who are needed at the processing end, this entirely new industry will give seasonal employment to loggers in many districts. And because the government was the prime mover in the project, the mill will be a source of revenue, which will help to cover the cost of providing new and better services. And while this forest industry is in its formative stages, Newfoundland mineral deposits are being explored and utilized as a very important part of the broad development program. Year-round diamond drilling operations continue at Gull Lake, in the heart of an area known to be rich in high-grade ores. The government has encouraged such exploration of the Department of Natural Resources. The findings of the exploration parties at Gull Lake and other locations, when pieced together by skilled geologists, tell a most encouraging story and indicate that Newfoundland minerals can maintain many profitable new industries. One such industry is the manufacture of wallboard and other products from the gypsum deposits on Newfoundland's west coast. Shortages and the current world unrest have made the development program a race against time. And when the government arranged to establish a new gypsum plant near Corner Brook, not a moment was lost in getting things underway. Land at the chosen site was cleared in short order. Engineers moved in to lay the groundwork, and the building was begun. Ships from many lands will tie up at the newly constructed piers to load the products of this entirely new industry. And these ships will carry many cargoes of another new Newfoundland product also, for close by the gypsum plant is the biggest of the many big projects which can be listed amongst the accomplishments of the Department of Economic Development. A new cement mill, the most modern in the world, was launched by the government only a few months after the new development program got underway. With speed once again the keynote, the massive structure of concrete and steel was rushed ahead despite snowstorms and many other difficulties. Giant girders were set in place under the direction of expert engineers. Huge pieces of equipment were hauled to the site over rough roads and under the worst possible conditions, for speed was vital, and the firm supplying the plant was constantly conscious of their promise to meet a fixed deadline for the completion of the project, and they determined to make good on their pledge to complete in record time a factory which would turn into a high-grade finished product, the raw materials to be found in abundance in the surrounding hills. From the beginning, progress was rapid, and observers could see the plant taking shape day by day and week by week. Soon, the intricate network of steel framing was standing out against the skyline, and engineers and government officials could breathe easier, for it was apparent that the deadline could be met. The urgency of the project was twofold. Not only was it imperative to start the plant rolling before shortages cut too deeply into essential raw materials, but the government realized that this new cement plant would see the economic development program start to pay off. The manufacture of the first ton of cement, the production of the first sheet of plasterboard at the gypsum plant, the smoke belching from the smokestacks at the birch plant, highlighting the bustling activity at this third great new industry. These would be the signs that the government's development plan was truly underway and doing its share to bring real prosperity to the 10th province. This, then, is the start of a whole new era for Newfoundland, an unprecedented era of industrial expansion, a turning point in the history of a land where poverty and depression have never been very far in the background. There is so much to do, but now that a start has been made, who knows how soon there may emerge a new Newfoundland, busy and prosperous, with many new industries and flourishing old ones, and capable of giving to all her people that better way of life they so richly deserve.